We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Pass. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Pass, and I hope you all enjoy.
Look at me learning how to record for the first time. Thought I had, for some reason, started the recording and looked down at my phone and realized, oh, you only got a 5-second snippet, so take two. But it's good, man. It's good, people. It's good, ladies and gents. Hope you all are doing well, staying positive, staying productive. Most of all, staying focused, getting on your telecommunication source, as normally most people say, getting on your Zoom, but um, a lot of us, me being one of them, have accepted that I have reached I've reached a maximum usage of Microsoft Teams. Um, it's funny because Teams and Zoom were like 1A of like applications that I just got tired of using. But on the flip side, thanks to COVID, we thrive because of them. And taking it a step further, you have, which is still being used, Google Meet, which gives you 3-hour sessions as well. So I also just recently, and this is an announcement without realizing it's an announcement, but I'll share it anyway. I set up a Calendly account. One, that's the wind just took me on out. One, uh, how can I say it? Did not know that Calendly is a Black-owned business. So that incentivized me to set up an account. But two, it's a very streamlined account for people who have um, clients or need to do consultation calls, stuff like that. So not a paid sponsorship, not making a dime saying what I just said. I'm just speaking about it because it's it's a resource, as with many resources that a lot of us know or realize exists, but we aren't using. And I'm gonna add something that's a bit of a wild card, but also more of the truth. And that is, you will be surprised how many different apps, programs, software can do things that you want to do, have interest in doing, aren't sure what to do. It's it's online. Uh, I was talking about this to someone, or I had this thought. I think this was, yeah. So this was a recording I was going to share yesterday, but a lot of my OGs and old school heads know about Mavis Beacon for typing. Because let's face it, a lot of people know how to type, but a lot of people don't have a clue. Like they know, so they know the keyboard, but they know the keyboard via um, digitally typing from phone, whether it's swipe. 'Cause there's different. A guy did a video about this, and he wasn't wrong on anything he said, but it basically was saying that each way to use your phone for texting, we have different ways that people text. Some people text. I'm still a swiper. I still set the keyboard up to be a certain size and swipe through messages. You have some people who can go full keyboard, full commando, and go ahead and get something written out, and they type at a fast rate with that keyboard. And there's nothing wrong with either option, but personally, 100% prefer the traditional like swiping method. But also, and this is random but relevant, one keyboard that probably has gained my attention more than any other keyboard is Gboard or Google Keyboard. But this is a side note, but also the truth. I personally wish that Grammarly had the ability to um, add in the swiping feature for their keyboard, and I would probably use it, but I digress. Now, this recording, cold as it is, I've I really want to record this and share this because I don't know why, I don't know who, but someone needs to hear it. And it's been on my heart for a while, and I'm not about to go into some in-depth sermon, but I'm about to drop some jewels and really bring some truths to the surface. We as a people have lost the feeling and the ability to love people. And part of that is because we, and this is no shade, this is no pettiness, this is no judgment. But people have lost or lacked love in themselves. And the reason I can get away with saying that is because I was one of those people. I did not have the most kind, endearing, loving feeling towards myself about different things. Now, am I 100% there with it now? Absolutely not. But one thing I can say is I've become more open to allowing and inviting love in my space. Now let me share some knowledge, some insight, and some thoughts that might help a lot of you all with this. And this was my initial thought. So let me backtrack because I know I kind of went on a tangent because I was going to talk about this in the first snippet of the video, but recording, but I'll talk about it here. We hear this phrase, but we don't realize the magnitude of this phrase. The holidays are tough for a lot of people, and they are. The reason that they're tough for a lot of people is because there's been holidays that people have either been at the table or been able to reach out to you when certain holidays arrive. It becomes very different when you don't receive messages from said people or the normalcy that you would see those people, and now you're not seeing them is an adjustment in and of itself. This year, it's it's probably one of my few times that I really had to just gather myself with like the endless amount of reflection on the holiday. And the biggest reason why is I might have shared this in a wallcast, and so if I have, apologies in advance, but it is what it is. One Christmas, I had one of the most memorable memories involving my family. And it was pretty much multiple generations in one city. It was my father, my uncle, myself, and my nephew. And my brother was there as well, on my mom's side. And we were watching basketball. And it was like one of the reminders of family and also the reminder of love. So slow walk with me a little bit with this one because I've heard it, I've seen it. A lot of people despise different holidays for different reasons, rightfully so. But if you take the view of what the holiday entails and what actions are seen from the holiday and really base it on the main thing, then it becomes a much calmer and cleaner, if you will. Ooh, that was close. Uh, it would be bad if I lost this audio. I'd be like, well, I'm not meant to record today. Nah, but for real, and let me be clear, some holidays don't, this does not apply. Like Halloween, absolutely. There's no love involved with Halloween. Halloween is a very Halloween is misinterpreted because a lot of people look at it as, hey, we're having Halloween parties, folks are getting dressed up. I have a huge love-hate relationship about trick-or-treating. Um, I might have shared this on the show before, like, and my mom felt bad about it even when we were talking about it recently, because there was one year that I wore a costume that was not the most pleasant, and she felt she felt really bad about it. And I was like, that's not your fault. Like, I'm not going to give you a hard time about that. It's not that deep. But Thanksgiving, whether we see it or not, family based. Christmas, believe it or not, family based. But it's family based in the aspect of, and I caught on to this like years ago. It's about grandparents seeing grandkids that they don't see very often, and cousins, nephews, and nieces getting an opportunity to see other nephews and nieces that they don't, nephews, nieces, and cousins that they don't see very often. Um, as we all know, COVID placed a massive amount of separation with holidays, but nothing to nothing surprising there. But that was like a consistent conversation, for lack of a better term. Um, the the kicker, and this is going back to what my initial statement was. you really don't see or realize how important love becomes in your everyday life. And the reason that I'm so emphatic with that word or with that phrase was for a while, you'd hear it be used, quote unquote, thrown around, but it would be missing or it would lack context. And over time, I started to really hone in on how serious it is, where we really don't value, we put value on the wrong things. And we should be putting it into the right people. But most importantly, we should be putting love or showing ourselves the proper type of love. And I'm not sitting here saying that you should go around just loving people just to love them, but we should do things because we're willing to do them, not expecting anything in return. And that's something that has probably been one of my grandiose realities over the last few months. But we don't think about how important it is to just invest a few minutes, a few hours to just be available to love one another. But most importantly, and I think I've found myself asking this question to so many people because it's just there to ask. And that is, as much as you can look for and ask for others to love us, we literally need to be better and open to loving ourselves. Self love, self care looks different for everybody. Self love and self care, if nothing else, should be healthy and hospitable and wholesome. Self care is not going to the bar. Um, and I'm saying this because y'all been listening to my show long enough. I spend a fair amount of time doing that source of self care, and it never ends well. So lately, I am really honing in on self care from a development standpoint, such as packing up my laptop, sitting down at either the library. I think I forgot when this was. I know it was recent, but like my latest or my now fave go to that I have not done in so long is to just sit in Starbucks. Sit in Starbucks for like a couple hours and just relax. Um, Shoot, on the low, my personal form of self love or self care that people think is crazy, but it's like the perfect storm. So I want to say it was Black Friday last year. Black Friday last year, I probably sniped one of the best deals you could find. Um, the Beats Studios, the big boys. I think they normally run like 300. I got it for half off. I got a pair for $150. And I was really unsure if I would like that model or style of headphone. I had used them before. Someone who I was close to had a pair, and I tried them out. There were quirks that I had about it, quirks I still have about them now. But I say all that to say, when it comes to noise canceling, they do noise canceling smooth, like very, very smooth and very fluid. Mm, I'll put it like this: I can put them on And because I've naturally become used to doing this, I still have to keep an ear open while wearing them because they naturally, like when I'm doing podcasts, I have to keep one ear open with those specifically because they are that good with noise canceling. Um, the trade-off with them is if you use them wireless, they have to stay well, not wireless, wired. If you connect them via the wire, then the cable, as soon as you plug it into said source, like if you're plugging it into your laptop or your microphone, whatever audio source it's going to play from, the headphones automatically are going to turn on as soon as you plug in the aux cable. So the aux cable plugs into the Beats. As soon as you connect it, um, they're powering on. So they use power. They use less power in that regard, but it's still being ran through that source of power, which is kind of but it still makes for a good it still makes a good audio. But beyond that, like just owning a pair and listening to music or listening to a podcast, like yesterday I shared my Apple Music replay because I did not really have a Spotify. I guess I may still have a Spotify wrapped out there, but my Spotify wrap would have been cut short because I kind of went 100% in on Apple Music. But when I had Spotify, I know I got at least 20,000 minutes worth of listening. I have not like been on Spotify to check. I may, like I said, it may show, it may not show. But on Apple Music, I got like 17,000 something minutes. And my friend had showed me hers, like she got 30,000 plus. And I was like, word. I was like, I probably would have got more, but I was in like a warp between both Apple and Spotify with listening. And more of my listening went towards Apple Music near the end of the year. I would say by July, August-ish, it was more Apple Music based. Um, and I tell people this all the time. I don't personally dislike Spotify. I don't. I think Spotify is a good platform. They've, unpopular belief, they perfected what's known as Apple Genius. And I'm not just saying that to like cause controversy or to make a ruffle with anything, but I'm saying it because it's 100% true. If you really get down to the nitty gritty of both platforms, they they 100% perfected what Apple introduced. It's not 100%. I mean, well, I say it's 100%, but it's not foolproof. It's still going to have kinks and flaws to it because there are times where they will have a tendency to repeat some songs here and there that you're like, all right, I heard it. Or like Apple Music does a thing where they will loop you into an album or repeat an album. And I'm not the biggest album repeater or single repeater. So like if I've heard it, I've heard it. I don't want to stay in that loop. But I don't know, outside of those things, my escape, I don't even want to use the term escape, my unplug or my self-care opportunity heightens when given the opportunity to just put on my beats, have them fully, most of the time they're fully charged, and literally play like some good music. Um, I think being a developer just has kind of become like a forced flow for me, but I do better with less noises and less distractions around. And I know for some people it's like, of course that's obvious, but it's like, no, you don't understand. Like having a space where there aren't a, a incredible amount of people around you, I get way more stuff done. However, many of you who have recalled me talking about this, I love body doubling. I love going, and this is the honest to goodness truth. A person could go with me to a coffee shop, Starbucks, whatever. They could be sitting there talking about who knows what. And the whole time they're talking, I'm pulled into my my planning flow, my just things that I know I need to do. So whether that's journaling, whether that's Bujo, which by the way, my Bujo slash bullet journal is, I would say, about 97% full, might be 98.3% because there are very few pages left to write in with that notebook. We will probably, knowing my luck, we will probably get all the pages full and it will 9 times out of 10 leak into or slide into Christmas. Um, my personal goal or push is to write in it up until Christmas Day, and then whatever I haven't planned, it won't make it. But then the rest of the micro journaling slash reflection days, I will still continue doing. Um, I felt good yesterday because I did my first gratitude post in a while. Because I'm learning to get back to doing those again. Which gratitude is something we show enough of, or we don't show enough of, because we really don't stop and really take time to truly be grateful and be thankful for what we have. Sure, we hate where things are with certain things in our lives. Who doesn't? But we really don't acknowledge like how much or how important it is to literally stop and smell the roses. Like there are people envious of where you are. Bottom line, there's no fabricated way of saying that. There are some people, and I've mentioned this in different forms. There are folks who want to live your life, like as in you no longer be here, and they live your life because of what you have obtained, what you've accomplished, what you've done. But what no one thinks about is the work and the effort to get to that point, or the things that had to change, or the amount of people that you had to leave behind. Not even lose, like leave behind. There's a huge conversation around leaving folks behind because we want to bring everybody. And it ain't our job. It is our job to live to the best of our ability. And I think I think the more that I've heard and had this book thrown in my face, the more that I really need to like stop playing and really read Atomic Habits. Um, but yeah, we need to really put ourselves in a position to excel and to become better people. Um, and at times, and this is open dialogue because it's the truth, at times that can be very challenging. It can be very time consuming, but we need that to become better people. Like even with you not, and I've said this numerous times, you may or may not have ever read or opened the book Atomic Habits, but in reading different excerpts and examples and statements, 1% better every day. Focus on the systems and the habits, not the goals. We as people are very quote unquote goal oriented, and there's nothing wrong with goals. Let me be 100% clear. But if you're looking at the more important factor or the more important element, systems. Like I don't think you all know how many times um I would watch Bar Rescue, and I still watch them from time to time. But the host is very adamant in a good way about systems. Having the right systems in place can get a lot of things in the right direction. As a podcaster, I have a system that no one really sees. The only time people see my system or my structure with podcasting is when they like see me do a show. And they're like, I didn't know you had to do all this. So I'm like, of course not. No one sees all of this. Like Walkcast, yeah, I can kind of cheat a little bit because it's just hook up AirPods, turn on voice recorder, and start talking. Or if I'm really feeling spicy, um, get the wired earbuds and go to town and just talk. But here's the kicker. That's for Walkcast. For actual podcasts, it's me trying to break down where I'm going to record. Me trying to see if I am going to record at home, do I need to put up sound barriers or make it almost like a known factor of, hey, I need I need as much background noise not to be in the show. And then if I'm having to deal with those factors, then my next thing is, all right, I'm gonna go to the location. Typically, it's always the library. Recording at the library is not the hardest thing in the world. And before I go any further, because I want to talk about this, and this is so random, but it's so relevant. Why have podcasters now done this thing? And everyone who's, I think it's like, I guess you can call it new school podcasting, which I'm not against at all. Like, let me be 100% clear to not sound like, oh, you're trying to be like a podcast OG. No, because true story, an honest story. When I first did a lot of my podcasts, my process was, and I'm explaining where I'm going with this in a second, but my podcast process was I had that one Samson microphone stand and I had the Samson Meteor, which I still think I want to get one, like have my own personal Samson Meteor. But I mean, I say that, but in reality, I really don't need a Meteor mic. I can always use my newer mics that I recently purchased and record from my phone, and they work too good to be honest. But record with the microphone. So my OG way was Samson Meteor, Samson stand, put the stand on the floor because it was intended to be like a church, almost like a church microphone stand in a sense. And it did that job tenfold. But then I was carrying that everywhere, recording from my laptop and recording podcasts. Then I got on a Yeti wave. Yeti, I did the same thing for a while. I just kept putting my mic on the stand and carrying and doing recording shows. That's why if you look at my cover art where I'm holding the microphone, shout out to Chris Rocks, photography. Not sure if she's still doing photography, but huge props to her because that was the that was probably one of my first times doing a photo shoot and really like just being chill and like being in the vibe. But put the Yeti on the stand. Recently, I've gotten the XLR microphones. Huge difference, by the way. It makes the recording feel and sound more professional. And I notice a difference when recording with those microphones, not gonna lie. Uh, but those have worked for recording purposes, hands down. But the point is the XLR mics that have the big long XLR cable on the back, you will see podcasters in different locations not sit the mic on the table and just let the microphone do its job, but instead the person talking on the mic. And I might do a TikTok video explaining this because I think it's a very fixable fix or fixable thing. But for a lot of people, they become so programmed to doing it that they don't know different. But they will hold the stand. And I don't know which is worse. I don't know which is worse. When a person is just holding the microphone by not the mic itself, but like the actual brace that holds the mic that would normally be on the stand, or if they have the mic, they have the base, they have the accessory that has the mic connected to it, and they're holding it almost like a baton. And I'm like, why do you need to do all of that? Like, it's your equipment, do what you want. Like I ain't tripping on that part of it. But it just doesn't logically make sense to do. You don't need to you don't need to be extracurricular with your microphone or your podcast equipment. But people do it so often and so much that it's almost like they're mentally wired to like, I gotta hold this microphone. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like just let the mic sit on, like if you sit, so and this is podcast one-on-one again. I know I always give these little tidbits. Microphones are meant to do all the work. The person recording should not have to do a lot of work. Meaning, if you record, so for like the perfect example, the Blue Yeti mic, whether you get the Yeti X or the old school Yeti, it's a reason that when you buy it, they tell you you don't need to have the microphone, like the top of the microphone doesn't have to be facing your mouth. You pretty much want the side that you're talking on to face you. So it's almost like it's flat. Like if you leaned forward into the mic, the front of the Yeti microphone to hit your face, not the top of the microphone. Why that's important is because people will do shows and not understand that they're talking in the wrong part of the mic. And then the audio is like trash. But the same applies like with Rode mics, with any XLR mics, believe it or not. You don't have to quote unquote talk into the mic. You can have the mic at a good enough distance where it can pick up the audio and still know like to give context and give like a perspective. When I recorded shows and used the newer microphones, the Rode mics, they are literally sensitive and good enough where if you record and are standing at the right amount of distance, like you could be in another room, and if you're too loud, it will hear you. And it's such a podcast one-on-one tech tip that I almost feel like I talk about it every other day whenever I'm doing a podcast. Give me one sec, y'all. All right, my bad. We back. Yeah, so your my mic, as far as microphones go, and as far as recording goes, quality is golden. But to my main point, I started my podcast with Mr. Cool Down. This is the first time I think I've sat for a cool down in a while. But um the the microphone is gonna do its job, but you will have folks. And here's the other part. When people do podcasts, most of the I've seen a lot of athletes do podcasts, seen a lot of celebs do podcasts, and I ain't mad at them doing the show. But if you your own person doing like all your editing and you ain't like a mixed master major, and get someone who is comfortable and you trust with doing audio. Let them handle your audio. Because some people's podcast audio is high profile atrocious. And I don't think they know it because I don't say they got away with it, but no one's really been in a space to tell them like, nah, bro, this ain't it. Like, not even like this ain't your calling, but this is just you can get better productivity out of your mics. Like my microphone setup now, we're using a Vocaster. It's probably become like my best overall podcast package. Like the equipment in theory, and I mean now, like I said, it's been some time since then, but because I got that, I want to say I got all that stuff in March or April. Whenever I did like I was in the 400s, the early 400s, I had that equipment. So the only thing that I would do different is I would not have gotten everything at one time. I mean, I was able to afford getting it all at one time, but I could have gotten it in a much more cleaner manner because I got the two XLR mics or the Rode. I got the two Rode mics. I bought the XLR cables. And what's funny, this is another podcast, one-on-one podcast tip. Do not feel like you have to get everything to all like be branded and everything's got to be matched up in the sync. No one's caring about half of that stuff the way that you're going to be quote unquote concerned about it. And it's a proven fact. Just get what you need, get your essentials, and as long as you're recording podcasts, you'll be fine. Mm. But yeah, like your micro, I got the two mics, the two stands. So the stands was it's like a full package. It was like you get the base, you get the stand itself for like the table, you get a thread, like a smaller thread, which we're not even gonna get into that. That thing almost like one of my mics almost was we was about to fight trying to take that off. And once I finally got off, I was like, I'm never putting this back on again. It was like a gold or copper-ish thread accessory to kind of keep the mic on. But now I just directly connect it, and I've had no issues. Uh, But yeah, XLR cables, podcast mics. I mean XLR cables, XLR mics, stands, and the golden adapters. I had to get those separate. So I wasn't sure if I had any or not. And then the actual interface, which is the XLR, the Vocaster 2. If you get any of them, get one that at least has, and this is stuff that if you're not doing podcasting, not gonna be your most exciting conversation. But if you are, get be sure that you can allow up to at least two people to talk on the show. Now, I'm gonna say this, and this is gonna probably piss or surprise a lot of people. I looked at one time getting the Rodecaster Pro. I wanted a Rodecaster Pro 1 for the longest time. Never got it. Then the 2 came out because I was basically looking at it like, oh, if I have four guests, everybody gets their own individual microphone. And over time, I'm like, if I'm to that point, then I've got like more production that I'm looking to really do on a different level. But from a primary standpoint, I would rather just have like the mic, the stand. Like, I mean, have one to have my single mic or have like a second guest on a mic, and then undervalued cheat code, believe it or not, is if you can hook up like another device, say a tablet or phone, and if you want people to call in, they can call in through that. Because I've set mine up now so that when people call the show, or if I was to have anybody call like live, they could actually be heard in the like they can be heard through the podcast recording, but also be heard by the myself and if there's a guest on to talk. So I've thought about like little stuff like that too as options or alternatives. But as the age old saying goes, with time, like once I learn and figure that element out, watch out. Like that's really all I can tell you. But I've already finished my walk. Like I said, this is my cool down status. I was indifferent on whether I wanted to make a move, but I think I'm gonna keep it chill just because I need to kind of focus and put on them beats and get into my zone with work. So I'm not gonna let too much stress me if I don't need to. But I really want y'all to, if nothing else you heard, and I know I feel like I say this frequently on the show, learn to love on yourself. And I'm gonna also give a added incentive. Allow others to love you. Be inviting of love. Because I think what people do is they want the love, they want the they want the affection, they want the attention, but they're not in a space to really receive someone loving them the way they truly want to be loved. And it's not that the love isn't there or it doesn't exist. It's just more you're trying to go after someone's nurturing and care. And it's like you're battling them on doing so because they just aren't in the space to receive it. And at times, whether we know this or not, that can be very challenging on your psyche, on your demeanor. Uh, But yeah, that's what I got for y'all. And we will do another one of these again soon. Then I'm gonna warn you all now. If the temperature drops too bad, then there will not be a walkcast because I'm not coming out here when it's in the teens or single digits trying to get some content. Nope. Nah, you can forget it. So that's what I got for y'all. Until next time, PT signing out. Peace.
Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout. Been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.